Bello.
Cameras caught what many are calling a political ambush. In a move that has sent shockwaves through Westminster, Reform UK's Richard Tice redirected the national immigration debate, literally, onto Labour and Liberal Democrat councils. It wasn't a speech, it wasn't a tweet, it was action. Migrants were suddenly sent to the heart of Labour-run areas, and Keir Starmer was caught completely off guard. Within minutes, pressure boiled over. Starmer's team scrambled, councils panicked, and the headlines exploded. But was this chaos part of a bigger strategy, or the beginning of a political war? Just hours ago, Richard Tice made headlines by taking a bold and controversial step. He authorized the relocation of several migrant families and individuals into areas controlled by Labour and Liberal Democrat councils. According to sources close to Reform UK, this was not a random decision, it was a calculated move meant to highlight what Tice calls the hypocrisy and failure of the left in handling Britain's migrant crisis. Footage released by onlookers shows chartered buses arriving in key Labour-run towns, offloading asylum seekers directly into the hands of councils who have, for months, demanded more humane and inclusive immigration policies. The twist? These same councils are now the ones struggling with overcrowded services, housing shortages, and public backlash. Richard Tice, standing near one of the drop-off points, addressed a small crowd and the press. He said, "If Labour says they can do it better, let's see them do it. We're simply helping them live up to their promises." What followed was chaos. Keir Starmer's team was blindsided by the stunt. Reportedly, Starmer was in a policy meeting when the news broke and immediately called for emergency briefings. One anonymous aide described the reaction inside Labour HQ as a meltdown. Press officers were told to stay silent while the party leadership worked out how to respond without making things worse. For a man who has tried to project calm leadership, this was a jarring moment. His silence only added fuel to the fire. Meanwhile, Labour councils receiving the migrants were not prepared. One councillor from North London told local media, "We had no warning, no coordination. Just buses pulling up and people being left here. It's not right." That sentiment was echoed by others who admitted they lacked the resources to handle a sudden intake. While some councillors tried to remain diplomatic, the frustration behind their words was clear. These councils now face difficult questions. Do they practice what they preach? Or were their immigration stances just political posturing? As the footage went viral, so did public opinion. On social media, the public reaction was split down the middle. Supporters of Tice called the move brilliant, saying it exposed the empty promises of Labour, and the Lib Dems critics, however, accused Tice of using human lives to make a point, calling it a cruel political stunt. But regardless of where people stood, one thing was clear: Richard Tice had taken real-world action, and the impact was immediate. The timing of this move is also important. With general elections looming and trust in major parties at a low point, Tice's decision could reshape political debate in the coming months. His critics may call it reckless, but even they admit, it has started a conversation that Labour wasn't ready to have. And in politics, timing and narrative are everything. By the end of the day, the Home Office had also weighed in, stating that they were not informed of any coordinated migrant relocations by Reform UK and would be looking into the matter. But the damage, or depending on your view, the breakthrough, was already done. Starmer's leadership is now being questioned not only by opponents, but even by some within his own ranks. How did he not see this coming? And more importantly, what will he do next? Keir Starmer is facing one of the biggest political storms of his leadership. What was meant to be a bold Reform UK stunt has quickly turned into a full-scale crisis for Labour. As footage of the migrant drop-offs continues to flood the internet, Starmer's silence has become deafening. Critics from both inside and outside his party are demanding answers. Why wasn't he prepared? Why have Labour councils, who've long championed migrant rights, suddenly gone quiet now that the responsibility is in their own backyard? Within hours of the incident, opposition MPs and political commentators launched attacks. Reform UK released a statement saying, "Labour councils asked for compassion and inclusion. We've given them the chance to lead by example. Now they're panicking." The Conservative Party also took advantage of the moment. One Tory MP tweeted, "Keir Starmer talks a lot about values. Let's see how well he handles real-life decisions." This is leadership under fire. But the most damaging criticism is coming from within Labour's own base. Some Labour voters have taken to social media expressing shock, saying they expected better preparation and quicker responses from the party they support. Others feel betrayed, believing that their communities are being used for political games, whether by Reform UK or by a Labour Party that failed to prepare. A Labour member from Manchester commented anonymously to a local news outlet, "This is exactly the kind of moment that makes people feel the party is all talk. We needed action and got silence." Several Labour councillors, now dealing with the real-world impact of the migrant drop-offs, are also starting to speak out. One councillor from Birmingham admitted, "We were not informed. We are overwhelmed. There is no infrastructure in place to handle this kind of pressure overnight." He added, "The government isn't helping, and now Reform UK has made things worse." The tension is clear. These local leaders feel abandoned, not just by Westminster, but by their own party leadership. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats have responded with cautious frustration. A Lib Dem spokesperson said, "We support humane immigration policy, but this is a political trick, not a solution. These are people, not props." But that line hasn't landed well with everyone. Some critics argue that if Lib Dem and Labour councils truly supported inclusive policies, they should welcome migrants with open arms, not scramble to avoid responsibility. The political fallout isn't just hurting Starmer, it's widening cracks in the entire left-wing coalition. Starmer has tried to hold together a party that includes pro-border moderates, progressive activists, and urban liberals. But this event is testing that balance. If Labour councils resist or fail to provide aid to the migrants now in their care, progressive voices will accuse the party of hypocrisy. On the other hand, if Starmer leans in too hard and backs full support, he risks alienating swing voters worried about immigration levels in already struggling communities. Even within Labour HQ, insiders report frustration. Some advisors feel the party should have predicted a bold Reform UK move, especially with the party climbing in polls. Others say Starmer's slow response has only made him look weak. Reports suggest emergency meetings are being held behind closed doors to coordinate a response. But nothing public has been offered, no press conference, no policy update, just quiet damage control. The media, too, has taken notice. Headlines like "Starmer blindsided by Tice's bold move" and "Labour's immigration gamble backfires" are dominating front pages. Political talk shows are now filled with debates asking whether Starmer is fit to handle real crisis leadership, or if his polished speeches and controlled appearances are simply not enough in today's political battlefield. And as public opinion shifts, polls are starting to move. Overnight surveys show a dip in trust for Labour's handling of immigration and local governance. Reform UK, on the other hand, is seeing a spike in online support. It's too early to say how long this boost will last, but one thing is certain: Richard Tice has taken control of the narrative, and Labour is still trying to catch up. The question now is, will Starmer find his footing in time, or is this the moment where his carefully built image begins to fall apart under pressure? Richard Tice knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't a careless move. It was sharp, bold, and planned for maximum impact. In a single action, he forced his political rivals to confront the very issue they often talk about, but rarely have to deal with directly. For some, this was political genius. For others, it was reckless provocation that put vulnerable people in the crossfire. Either way, Tice has made himself the center of the national conversation, and he's not backing down. The leader of Reform UK has made it clear for months that he believes both the Conservative and Labour parties have failed Britain on immigration. But words are one thing. This time, he took direct action. By sending migrants into Labour and Lib Dem strongholds, he challenged them to live up to the values they promote: open borders, inclusive communities, and refugee support. Tice argued that if these councils were so eager to defend migrant rights, they should be equally ready to offer practical help. In a press conference held shortly after the relocations began, Tice stood firm. He said, "The British people are tired of double standards. These politicians cry for more immigration and more compassion but want none of the responsibility. I've simply given them what they've asked for. His message hit a nerve, and not just among his base. Many who felt ignored by Westminster are now calling him a truth-teller. Political analysts have quickly weighed in. Some call Tice's move a stroke of genius. He's redirected public attention, cornered Labour in its own rhetoric, and pulled Reform UK out of the margins and into the spotlight. In an age where political moments are measured in viral clips, Tice just created one. More importantly, he created it on his terms, but not everyone is praising him. Human rights groups and migrant aid charities have condemned the move, calling it exploitative and dangerous. These are people fleeing war and poverty, not pawns in a political game, said one charity spokesperson. The relocation happened with no warning, no coordination with local councils, and no resources provided for the families involved. Critics argue that this shows a complete disregard for the well-being of migrants, especially vulnerable children and women who now face uncertain shelter and services. Even within some conservative circles, there's unease. A few Tory MPs expressed concern privately, saying that while the message was powerful, the method could backfire. You can't fix broken immigration systems by creating more chaos, one said. Another warned that such moves risk making Reform UK look irresponsible rather than strong. Still, for many working-class voters and those living in towns deeply affected by immigration pressure, Tice's action speaks directly to their frustrations. Many feel that while politicians debate endlessly in Parliament, nothing changes on the ground. Housing waits grow longer, schools become overcrowded, and social services are stretched thin. Tice tapped into that frustration, and then handed it back to the very leaders who dismissed it. There's also the question of timing. With general elections approaching and public faith in traditional parties at an all-time low, this was the perfect moment for Tice to shake the table. Reform UK has been steadily growing, especially in constituencies where people feel ignored by Labour and betrayed by the Tories. This move could help them convert online noise into real political power, but it's a high-risk game. If even one council mishandles the migrants now in their care, Tice will likely say, "I told you so." But if Labour councils manage to provide proper support and stability, they may flip the narrative, showing they can walk the talk. It's a dangerous chess match, with human lives on the board. What makes Tice's strategy different from other firebrand politicians is his willingness to act, not just shout. Most anti-immigration parties focus on slogans. Tice brought the argument to his opponents' front doors. And whether Britain agrees with him or not, they're watching, and so is every political leader in the country. This moment has pushed Richard Tice from the fringe into the fight. He may be criticized, condemned, or even legally challenged, but he's no longer being ignored. And that, for any rising political leader, is a win. The real shockwaves from Richard Tice's bold move are now being felt across local communities. In towns and boroughs governed by Labour and Liberal Democrat councils, the sudden arrival of migrant families has exposed the deep cracks in local infrastructure and tested the strength of political promises made for years. These areas, already stretched by housing shortages, social service backlogs, and financial strain, are now being pushed to their limits. In one Labour-controlled district near Leeds, emergency shelters were hastily converted from school gyms and old council buildings. Local residents gathered outside, not to protest the migrants, but to demand answers from their council leaders. "Where was the plan?" one resident shouted. "They had years to prepare for this. Now they expect us to clean up the mess." Similar scenes played out in Manchester, Bristol, and parts of South London. Many citizens who once supported more inclusive policies now feel betrayed, not by the migrants, but by the lack of preparation from the very leaders they voted for. Teachers are being told to prepare for overcrowded classrooms. Health clinics are seeing surges in walk-in patients. Food banks are issuing emergency calls for more supplies. It's not the migrants themselves causing chaos, it's the absence of a clear, coordinated plan from local authorities who claim to champion refugee rights. And now, those local leaders are facing the harsh reality of turning words into action, but the impact isn't just logistical, it's political. In areas considered Labour strongholds, the mood has shifted. Councillors are being heckled at town halls, and MPs are receiving angry emails from constituents. Starmer's Labour finds itself under attack not only from the right, but from the very communities that once viewed the party as their voice. And in the background, Richard Tice is quietly gaining ground. Recent polling data shows a 4 to 6% increase in support for Reform UK in key working-class regions. These may seem like small numbers, but in marginal constituencies, they're game-changing. A few percentage points could flip entire seats. Tice isn't just targeting national headlines, he's laying the groundwork for local election wins. His move has become a campaign moment, one that may reshape the voting map come election day. The Liberal Democrats, too, are under pressure. Their councils, often vocal about inclusivity, are now caught in the same trap. One Lib Dem councillor in the Midlands admitted in a BBC interview, "We didn't expect this. We support humanitarian aid, but the way this was done has overwhelmed us." It was an honest comment, but it exposed the gap between political ideals and practical readiness. Local elections are no longer just about bin collections, housing permits, or potholes. Now, they're about whether parties can keep their promises under pressure. Reform UK is capitalizing on that shift. While Labour and the Lib Dems focus on recovery and response, Tice is out campaigning, framing the entire crisis as proof that the establishment parties are all talk. The national conversation has also changed. What used to be a debate about immigration policy is now a debate about leadership, trust, and honesty. Who will face the real-world consequences of their beliefs? Who is prepared to take responsibility when politics become reality? These are questions voters are now asking in every part of the UK. Even Conservative councils are watching this unfold carefully. Some have privately praised Tice for doing what the Tories didn't dare. Others are alarmed, worried that it could trigger unrest or bring Reform UK into direct competition in Tory heartlands. One unnamed Conservative MP said, "Tice has shown he's willing to do what it takes. We'd be foolish not to take him seriously." The migrant families involved in this crisis remain at the center of it all. Many of them are frightened, confused, and unsure of their future. For them, this is not about politics, it's about survival. They've been moved across borders, across towns, and now across battle lines. And while politicians argue, they're left waiting for housing, for food, for answers. In the end, this isn't just a news story. It's a turning point. Richard Tice has forced the nation to confront uncomfortable truths, whether one agrees with his method or not. Keir Starmer has been tested in real time and found wanting by many. Local councils have been exposed. And voters are watching it all unfold, day by day. As the next election draws near, this moment will not be forgotten. It will be replayed in campaign ads, discussed in debates, and remembered by those who felt the impact most. The question now is simple: who will rise from this